still plugging stuff in, still trying to work out stuff. And as I was doing that, the sort of stage manager then counted down. And we were like, we're not ready. We can't go out now. It was really awkward. I went into the band's dressing room and said, like, it's totally up to you. You're still going to get paid. Like, there's basically no one here. Like, if you want to play Wicked, that'd be great, but totally fine. Because they had drove quite a long way as well.
Oh, no.
So bad. There were a few shows like that. Salt and Pepper were amazing. Nelly was great. Shelley was great. Like Blue Can Trail was there and stuff like that. But yeah, that ran, it was about 2 weeks, and that ran up until the 17th of March.
Oh.
And of course, there was a lot of people from the US on the tour as well. So it got to the point where it was the last few shows we didn't think were going to happen, and they were starting to panic a bit whether they can get home. And I think it was about 3 minutes to 9, and the last song before they come on stage was on the playlist. And I turned to the in-house front of house guy. I went, I'm going to have to run. Like, I've just got to really quickly go to the middle. I'll be back like in a minute, because I knew where it was. It was just
right.
Said to him, everything's ready to go. It's all unmuted. Can you just, if worse comes to worse, can you just like watch the desk? He was like, yeah, sure, fine. So I ran to the loo, and as I was walking to it, I was like, oh dear. So I had to go quicker and quicker. I went in, bust open the door, and it was just, I mean, I was throwing up everywhere.
Oh,
and
shit.
It was bad. And I was like, at one point I said to Brooker, I said, I think you're going to have to call an ambulance. Like, this is bad.
But you are, though, in that moment, you're like,
I know.
You're like,
and he was like, I don't think you need an ambulance. I was like, I think I might. And then it's like,
I need an ambulance.
Long drives, late nights, and lobby calls. This podcast has it all.
Hello. Hi there. Welcome to the show, Long Drives, Late Nights, and Lobby Calls. This is a podcast that's mostly to do with the realities of the live music industry, and I'm bringing you some real stories from the people on stages to everyone else behind the scenes. And this week I'm serving you Jack Bonney. What's up, dude? How you doing?
Yeah, good. Yeah, how are you?
Doing well. I think before we get into it, we should talk about the announcement stuff that happened yesterday. So did you pay close attention to the Bojo announcements? Because it all kind of seemed to happen early on, and then I was like, when's the actual official stuff happening?
That's it. I mean, we were kind of ready for about 7 p.m. to kind of get everything then, but we watched it in House of Commons from about, was it like 3:30 onwards, I think it was, and it kind of gave you all the stuff kind of got leaked a bit before anyway, didn't it?
Yeah. It was almost like the day before everyone's like, oh, schools are back, and everyone's like, oh.
Yeah. But it was, I think good. Like, there's kind of nice if it all goes to how it's planning to. I think it'd be great.
I'm like, I got a little bit like, I didn't get super emotional, but I got a little bit emotional when I was like, man, like actually by summer we're going to be able to do a gig again. This is a bit weird.
Yeah, really. Hopefully. I saw. Yes, I think it was yesterday that the 2000 Trees Instagram page just posted up their lineup, and their caption was, "I'm just going to leave this here." So I guess to hint that they're planning to go ahead and stuff.
Mate, so I did a lot of my growing up in Gloucester, and the Trees is just down the road. And I've been there like quite a lot, but I've never played, or like, well, not played, but I've never like worked there. And it's like a dream. It's like probably like one of my dreams, just to go and mix a rock band at Trees or something.
Yeah, it's a great festival. Really great.
Have you done it before?
A few times, yeah. I started off. I did it with BIM, and I did.
Doing the forest stage. The
forest stage, which is really cool. Really, like they've done it really. It looks amazing, and they've done it really well.
Beautiful.
And like people love it, and especially like even like the morning or early afternoon slots when everyone's a bit hungover from the night before, and like they'll just go see their favorite band, but do like a slightly chilled out set. But it's great. Yeah, so I did that, and then I did some shows with Exets there as well. Which was really good fun. So yeah, I've been there a few times actually, but
legit.
It's great.
Hopefully, 21st of June, we get some gigs open and stuff.
Yeah, I really hope so. It's definitely encouraging, isn't it? That it could possibly happen, and also to see. I mean, it's only the one I saw at 2000 Trees, but to see that they are thinking they can go ahead. So
and do it.
I just hope it goes to plan. I mean,
it's a later festival, isn't it, in the year? So they're like,
yeah. So maybe
I've got some stuff penciled in October actually as well. So maybe that could actually come. Like when I saw the announcements, I was like, "Holy shit! This actually could go." So
yeah. So when was your last like proper show that you did?
My last, see, it wasn't even really a proper show though. It was an award ceremony. Not a
okay.
ceremony, but it was like an award show in Switzerland. I didn't do any mixing. It was all like I sat in the broadcast truck and just made sure that everything was sounding kind of how I wanted it to sound. And the MD backliner was just on stage, but he did a lot of the prep. So he did a lot of the rehearsals and did a lot of the arrangements. And we did a duet with like a Swiss kind of pop star thing. But it was one song, and it was like maybe 2 or 3 days. I think it was like 2 or 3 days work for one song for like literally 6 minutes. And me, Justin, Miles, I think Steam was there as well, and one of the label reps. We were all just like, oh, this is great. This is so good. Because we kind of like, it was the kind of start to the year. But when we were there, they were already talking about cancelling the gig because they were like, it was late February. So they were like, we might cancel the gig. And then Justin was like, yeah, I actually am at high risk. And we were like, oh, really? And he was like, yeah. And explained the situation. We were like, we need to get you home.
Yeah. Stick some bubble wrap around him, get him home. Yeah.
But what was yours? What was your last one?
It was pretty like right up until the lockdown date, really. I think it was the 17th of March. It was a tour. It was a tour I did called the Blastoff Tour, and it was like
there's so many jokes there. Sorry.
And cue joke. And it was good fun. It was with a company called Eighth Day Sound, and I was the monitor tech on it, looking after monitor world and stuff, and RF things. And it was, I guess, sort of 90s hip hop R&B. There was Salt and Pepper was there, Nelly was there, Shaggy. It was almost a bit like a kind of touring festival, but in sort of arenas sort of thing.
Oh, mate.
It was great fun, actually. It was really cool. It was quite hard work because there was a lot of egos flying around. But not like in like it was fine. Like they was deserved because Salt and Pepper were amazing. Nelly was great. Shaggy was great. Like Blue Cantrell was there and stuff like that. But yeah, that ran. I think it was about 2 weeks, and that ran up until the 17th of March. And of course, there was a lot of people from the US on the tour as well. So it got to the point where it was the last few shows we didn't think were going to happen, and they were starting to panic a bit whether they can get home and stuff like that. So it was right up until the last bit.
And then so you didn't finish the whole run then?
No, we did, luckily. Yeah, that last show was I think the 16th was the last show, and then I was home on the 17th. I mean, I guess it probably shouldn't have done what it definitely shouldn't have done. You know what I mean, with it, because it was pretty bad then, I think. But there was no sort of, from the government-wise, definite, you cannot do this. So it just carried on, and it was so early on in the whole thing. But I remember thinking just after it was a few weeks off, a couple of months off maybe, quite nice, have a bit of a break.
Yeah.
Here we are almost a year later.
Going, I can't wait. Almost a year later, being like, oh my God. So me and Jack actually met at a side hustle that we had to, a temporary side hustle that we had to do financially to support ourselves, because the self-employment stuff hasn't been as good as we thought. But
no,
whatever, we've had to just deal with what we've had to deal with. So we both work at a supermarket home delivery service. I don't want to say it because they say that you do like sign a disclaimer, even though it's like you're just working at a supermarket. Like you're not allowed to put anything on social media about what you work, because I guess it's obviously anything that's detrimental to their brand.
Sure. Yeah.
So we're going to wait until hopefully we go back into tour management before we had sound before we we say anything.
Then we can say what you want. We have signed an important bit of paper, haven't we? Really? So
a non-disclaimer closure.
Yeah.
So that's what me and Jack met. I know, because I remember saying to one of the team leaders, I was like, "Oh, Jack Bonney, is he like my age? Like probably a little bit taller than me, like dark hair, and does like live touring as well." And they were like, "Nah, that's not him." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's weird. There must be another Jack Bonney, like on the south coast, or like in Brighton or something." Thinking, "Oh, that's weird." And I remember seeing you and being like, "Oh, that definitely is him."
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
Because I knew of you through Angus.
Through Angus, right? Yeah, absolutely. So it's been nice to have someone that can relate as much as I can to, what we have to persevere with and go through.
Yeah. I feel like there needs to be I don't know. There was a point that I was getting, I was getting Jack to voice note me everything funny that happened at work, but then I'm not sure if it would I don't know if it really relates to someone listening, if they just would find it funny or not.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think it would. I think you have to go through it to really appreciate.
To really appreciate some of the madness things, just like random things like one time after Christmas, or before Christmas, I'm delivering some food, and my kind of thing was like, okay, cool, stay safe, enjoy your festive period. And one woman didn't hear what I said and just went, I'm not on my period.
Oh my god!
I was like, oh no, your festive thing. And she was like, oh, and I was like,
I said festive. I said festive. Sorry.
I said festive period. And she was like, oh, and then she was a bit like, oh, okay. And I got back to the van, and I forgot that there was one more crate to give to her. So then I had to grab the crate and then go back, knock on the door, and go,
me again.
It's me, the weird one again. Okay.
Yeah, I've kind of started to try. I'm obviously very friendly and things, but before I would really try and have a conversation, or when you're standing there waiting for them to take all the shopping, and I'd try and have a conversation, but I've ended up just giving up. I just stand there now and I don't even mind. If people are friendly, I'll talk to them back. Yeah,
just watch them and be like, oh, is that how you're going to take that out of the crate?
But yeah, but hey, grateful for the job at the moment.
Yeah. It's been
hard. I've applied for a few other sort of, I don't know, is proper job the right word? But we've applied for it. Well, I've applied for a few other jobs, and there's just there's not a lot really that you can go into. So yeah.
So Jack, if you were to try and convey to the listeners or watchers how you kind of got into what you do, because we still do it, even though we're not doing it at the moment. We're taking a little bit of a break. So how did you get into it, and what is your kind of what is your preferred job role on the live scene?
So like an audio engineer really is what it's the front of house or monitors. I do a lot of monitor engineering, just because that's what I've kind of been put on the first few, and it kind of carried on from there.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I do front of house quite a bit as well. But then, so I went to BIM here in Brighton and studied it was like a live sound and tour management course.
You were a year above me.
I was okay. So yeah,
Dex Lush used you as an example once, I remember.
Oh, did he? Oh, right. I quite like Dex. Was great. Was it a good example, or was it don't be like this guy?
Yeah, no, it was yeah. Don't be like this guy, but his coursework's really good. Now
it was a shot of me
behind your desk like that. No, yeah, it was a good example.
I was a little bit older than most of the people on the course, and I don't know if that helped a bit, only because I knew it's what I wanted to do, and I kind of wanted to go straight from that into it. Whereas I know a few other students were either not as fast, they kind of maybe lost interest a bit in it during the course, or also maybe thought that because they've maybe had a few years of, more than me, that they could basically try something else. But anyway, so I kind of went straight from there. And then Zoe Martin at BIM got me my first, what I would say is my first proper gig with public service broadcasting, who I still work with now. I
went to a show at the Dome actually with a mate of mine, Jack Bonney, and just got too many Jacks in my life. I need to all call you by your last names. And yeah, I remember you doing monitors there, because I think Angus came to help out as well. But
yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I guess that was my kind of first. Well, I'd say it's proper job, and I still work with them now, and it's really, really great fun. But then also during BIM, I put on a few shows at the PavTav upstairs, because there was nothing going on there, and I kind of got to know the owners and did that. They're awful, and I remember there was a show, so I would promote the show. It was called Butterscotch Promotions. Don't ask me why, it just was. So I promote the show and then do the sound for it as well. And I remember putting on a show with 3 bands. And I guess the only sort of promotion I would do was the posters around social media things and stuff like that. But it got to the headline band, and the only people that were there were the support bands. And I think one of them actually left anyway, and maybe 2 other people. And it was really awkward. I went into the band's dressing room and said, it's totally up to you. You're still going to get paid. There's basically no one here. If you want to play Wicked, that'd be great, but totally fine. Because they drove quite a long way as well.
Oh no!
So bad. There were a few shows like that. But
God, that is terrible. Oh man, I hated those ones. Especially when you've done it. I mean, you put it on yourself and you've done the whole thing. And you just think, oh man,
this is all my fault. I'm sorry, but here you go. So then I did that, and then kind of just carried on from there, and luckily managed to make it work. I was working at a pub at the time, and then quit the pub one summer, I think 2014, that summer. got some work at Boardmasters Festival and Reading Festival, just doing some set stuff with a friend, and then kind of managed to carry it on from there really until
the old Brexit COVID, the BC.
Yeah.
Oh my god, we could literally call it BC.
Oh yeah, the BC. That works.
That does work, before BC. And everyone's gonna be like, what does that mean? You'd be like, shut up, mate, you weren't there.
Before BC. Oh, that's great. I love that. Brilliant.
Sorry to go off tangent. I will ask you a question at some point, I'm sure. Just remembered, yeah. Sorry, it's not even that funny. So talking about Angus shadowing on an Erasure gig, and I was jealous because he got to go and shadow the engineer. I remember thinking, oh, okay, cool. That's cool. That's a really good thing. You should shadow engineers. Can you see how they're doing it? Pick up, get some knowledge, get some wisdom. Yeah. And I remember doing the support tour with Kelvin, and it was just me, Kelvin, and a backliner called Charlie Boswell, and it was really, really small. It was like, when we had a photographer called Tom, and I can't remember Tom's last name, and so we were on this like Astra, and it was a really, really kind of budget support tour, but the first gig was in Rhyl, and it like North Wales, so it was like a bit of a drive, and it was a bit like, oh, okay, and we turn up and we meet all the James Morrison's crew who we were supporting. And everyone's really, really lovely, but it's a little bit like big boy touring, and we've never done it before, so we're all really, really scared and nervous. Anyway, their engineer helps me out a little bit, but the system tech is the one that's really babysitting me. And to go through the whole show, the first show happens. It was okay. It wasn't great, but we got away with it. And I was on a desk, I think it was like a Pro 2 or something, and it was something that I was really scared about. So system engineer got me through the first gig, but I was like, I need to like shadow the headliner. So I asked him, I was like, hey man, like, a couple of gigs in, if you're up for it, and if you feel okay with it, is it all right if I like stand in the booth with you, and so I can shadow you, and just like if you have time and stuff, like not like take me through it during the gig, but can I just be around and just shadow you type of thing, like 'cause I've got loads of time on my hands. And he's like, yeah, of course, man, yeah, of course, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's sick. So a couple of shows in, we're in Glasgow. And after the show, I'm like, hey man, yeah, cool. Like, I'll be back in a bit then. Like, I'll be back in a bit. And he's like, yeah, okay, cool. And he's just like, yeah, okay, sure. So I come back, and then I'm stood there just kind of like hanging around, just like watching what he's doing, And he just like kept turning and looking at me, but with like over his shoulder. And then he just turns to me and he's like, you gonna fuck off then or what?
What?
Yeah. He's like, you're gonna fuck off then? Or, and I was like, oh, I thought I was gonna, yep, no worries, sweet. Okay, just literally took the hint straight away and just buggered off. I was like, oh, okay.
Oh man. Oh, it's so weird. That's so strange when people could just turn like that.
Yeah, I know.
maybe he was having a bad show. I don't know. That's so weird.
Yeah. I remember throughout that whole tour, I remember thinking, oh, I think he was just being polite, but actually he wanted to say, oh, I'm sorry, but that's not what I'm down for. And I asked him during a moment where he's doing I didn't ask him, but like then I'm there. I turn up during his like sound check, his line check changeover, and he's like, yeah, get this kid out of my face.
Oh,
but I wasn't even there. I was just stood behind him. But
that's hard though as well, especially if you're on the same tour and stuff like that. Like you're going to see each other every day.
I do want to talk some disasters, but I feel like I go really hard on the disaster stories before we go into.
Well, I was thinking this though, but that's the stuff you remember. Like
it actually is though, isn't it?
Talk about what's gone wrong. Oh yeah, remember this, or what's gone right? No idea. Can't remember any of it.
Well, okay then. What have you ever been like? Has it ever gone like? Because the best part about, I guess, what we do is that the show always happens at some point. So even though something goes terribly wrong, you still do the show and you still kind of fix it. But has there ever been a time that it's been like, oh mate, not I fucked up, but like this is a disaster. Like, oh fuck.
Yeah, there's one that always sticks out. There's one that always I won't say the name of the band, but we did a show. I did a show with the band in Italy, in Rome, and it was sort of I think it was two maybe three songs.
Oh right.
And it was for TV, but it was a live sort of festival style show in the middle of Rome, this big square. So we flew out with the band. We flew out with the band the day before into Rome, and then one of the cases didn't turn up off the flight.
Oh no.
And of course, so the band is quite electronic. It heavily relies on sort of playback stuff and sort of a lot of MIDI things and stuff like that. And it was the brain of the show. That case didn't show up essentially. So we got because we were doing the sound check the day before. So we got there and we trying to scramble together what we could to figure out how to resolve it. And obviously the tour manager was contacting the flight and stuff like that, trying to work out when it can get there, what was happening. And it became quite quickly apparent that the case wasn't going to get there that day, or probably the day after either.
Oh.
So we then had to, so that we did the sound check the day before without kind of any of the playback stuff. It was just all the live instruments and things. And then trying to scramble together anything we could locally to make it happen. And we, I think it was, if I remember right, it was a public holiday, either for Italy or for Rome, I think, on either that day or the day after, or maybe it could even been the whole weekend. I can't really remember, but we managed to get nearly everything apart from, I think it was either a Motu MIDI interface or an RME interface, something like that. We couldn't get. Even there were shops that sold it, but none of them were open. None of them would deliver anything like that.
Oh no!
So this was the day before. So the solution was that we would fly out. One of the brass players who plays in the band but wasn't doing this show, but he was in
come
London.
out. Oh no way!
So he went to one of the band members' house to get it, to get what he needed, and then flew out late that night. Got there the next morning.
Oh, sick.
So then,
that's great.
That was great. So that night we were like, brilliant. So we'll be able to scramble it together. It wasn't the perfect rig, but it was like, cool, we can scramble it together.
Yeah,
It was like 3 songs. So then the next day, the show comes, and the way the stage was set up, it was a big stage, but it had like a circle stage within on sort of the big stage, and with a video screen splitting it. So it was 2 semicircles. So while the band was playing on
rotating
stage,
stages.
Yeah, exactly. So while the band was playing on stage, that we would then set up behind line checks, that A and B system with line check, and then it would spin. And also bear in mind, this was a TV, so it was recorded for TV. And I'm not exaggerating, though. It was a big show because it was it was a big public holiday, and it was in a big square. I reckon there was sort of between 40 or 50,000 people on this massive square. It was insane. And so we didn't really manage to check because we couldn't really. We checked all we could beforehand, but there was no rolling risers. So when your half an hour slot came, you'd have the circle on stage would rotate. The band about to perform would start playing. The band that had just performed would then start breaking down theirs and getting it off that semicircle.
Right, and then
and then we would have to you couldn't roll it on. You had to put it all on.
Yeah.
And this was within half an hour we had to do all this. So we did that. It got to about 15 minutes in. We were kind of ready to go. Started line checking. Then also they had to sort of reprogram everything, the sort of MIDI channels and stuff like that. And it wasn't enough time to do it. So I remember being behind the playback room, which is on the stage anyway, still plugging stuff in, still trying to work out stuff. And as I was doing that, the sort of stage manager then counted down, and we were like, we're not ready, we can't go out now. James in front of us was like, what's going on? So he started counting down, and he wasn't stopping. He said, right, go. And we started spinning, and I was still on the stage plugging stuff in and stuff like that. And eventually it turned around in front of all these people. We had to just be like, right, let's see what happens. So I've got to come off stage and then start playing it. It wasn't good.
No.
Really, really wasn't good. I think it was to anyone that knew the songs, because it wasn't their show, if you know what I mean. It was there were so many bands playing. It was more of a TV thing and stuff like that. But I think it was passable to anyone that doesn't really know the songs. But to anyone that knows the songs, it was a disaster, unfortunately. But that's definitely one that sticks in my head. That was really tough. That was
oh my god.
Yeah, after the show, it wasn't very fun, but but it's one of those ones you look back on it now, and it's everyone's fine with it. You just have to laugh about it and stuff.
Yeah. I guess it definitely is. I feel like the debrief that you maybe didn't get initially, like I guess between all the crew, like was it like not a large crew, but was there a few of you backstage, backlining and teching and everything? Or
no, it was actually because it was a bit stripped back because of I think because it was a Europe show or whatever. I can't remember a flying show. They kind of strip it back a bit, so it was just me on stage, front of house engineer, tour manager, and then because it was a slightly reduced band as well for similar sort of reasons. So yeah, it was a tough one. Things could have been done better, of course they could have, but yeah, it was from as soon as that case didn't show up, it was like this is going to be tough.
Yeah, and then because then
and luckily it was only 3 songs. I think it was only 3 songs, maybe even 2. It wasn't that many, so it was get through.
You were just like, let's just get this over and done with. Yeah. Get the money and go. Oh my god, that's TV messes me up like a lot.
That's another one real quick, just that I had. It was a show with the excerpts that we were doing at Glasgow's ABC, obviously before it burned down and things. And it was kind of halfway through a tour, and we did normal show. Went for food just before. Came back and was like prepping for the show and stuff, and then I went out and did line check and stuff in front of the house and things like that. Did a line check. I went backstage to check with the band; they were all good to go and stuff. And it was Glasgow's always good for them. Access shows are always good in Glasgow, so it was a really fun show. Everyone was really excited and stuff. The band were all good. I went back to front of house, and I think it was about 10 minutes before, sort of 10 to 9, before they were meant to go on, and my stomach just started feeling really bad. And I was like, "This isn't good." And
the anxiety, was it like anxiety?
Well, that's what I thought. I was like, oh, well, maybe I'm just a bit more,
nervous than you think.
Because it's a good show, big show for them and stuff like that. And I was like, be all right. So I kind of just stood there a bit, and normally it would just go away, or I'll just stop thinking about it, but it kept getting worse and worse. And I think it was about 3 minutes to 9, and the last song before they come on stage was on the playlist, and I turned to the in-house front of house guy. I went, I'm going to have to run. Like, I've just got to really quickly go to the loo. I'll be back like in a minute, because I knew where it was. It was just
right.
I said to him, everything's ready to go. It's all unmuted. Can you just, if worse comes to worse, can you just like watch the desk? He was like, yeah, sure, fine. So I ran to the loo, and as I was walking to it, I was like, oh dear. So I had to go quicker and quicker. I went in, bust open the door, and it was just, I was throwing up everywhere.
Oh,
and it was
shit.
bad. It was bad. I think there was actually 2 people in the loo that I had to kind of push out the way. I was like, sorry, and then kind of went through. Was sick, like really bad. So that happened, and then I heard the band come on stage. I was like, oh shit, okay. So I like cleaned myself up, whatever. Came back out again, and I was like, oh, okay. I think I'm all right. That's fine. Like, I must have just had some bad food and got it out of the way. Show happens, and then it got to about 3/4 of the way through the set, and I started feeling bad again. And I was like,
oh no,
because I felt fine. I thought I'm sick. I'm better now.
Yeah, just some dodgy food.
Yeah, exactly. And then it happened again. Started feeling bad again. Said the same thing to the guy. I was like, I'm going to have to go again. And it was worse the second time. And then after that, I think I managed to get through to the end of the show, muted at the desk, and just went straight back to the loo. And then by that, it then actually got. I mean, I've never really properly had food poisoning really bad before. I've had it like a little bit, but I then had to go sit in the van outside, and I started really freaking out because my hands were going like numb, pins and needles, and it was like a claw that I was like just couldn't move, and it was really I started freaking out quite a bit.
Yeah, it's terrifying, mate.
It was because I've never really had it that bad before. It was awful. And the guys of course were all breaking on the stage and loading out and stuff, and then Thomas Brooker, who was doing photography and stuff on the tour, and Alex, who was looking after backline, came out and really looked after me really well. And I was like, at one point I said to Brooker, I think you're gonna have to call an ambulance. Like, this is bad.
But you are though, in that moment, you're like,
I know.
You're like,
and it was like, I don't think you need an ambulance. I was like, I think I might. And then
I need an ambulance.
And then like a St. John's ambulance guy who was great came out, and like he got me one of those like foil blankets, and I was sitting in the back of the van just like pretty bad. And then eventually the ambulance didn't show up. I think Brooker was like, all right, I'll call it, but maybe didn't actually call it because it was like, you're fine. Sort of
you're
thing.
Gonna be fine.
Mate,
that's crazy that it crept up though.
I know. I mean, the worst possible time as well. Yeah. The
worst time.
And also that, I mean, I still look back on the show and it was great. The show was amazing, but it still haunts me because it was, But then we had a show the next day in Aberdeen, and I got back to the hotel, slept on it, and I was still pretty bad. It kind of then felt like a bad hangover the next day.
Yeah.
I just didn't eat anything for like 24 hours and got through the next show. And it was, luckily it was all right. But at the time, it was really bad.
Oh, mate. I remember having like 2 weeks off work once with food poisoning. So for you just to crack on and carry on touring is mad.
Yeah, I think maybe I just got 2 weeks worth of food poisoning in 12 hours, maybe, or something. I don't know, but it was bad the next day. But it was like it was all right. And I think maybe the adrenaline of like doing the shows and doing the tour kept it through and stuff. But the guys are great. They were really like as long as you were all right. It wasn't like they were like, no, you have to do the tour. No,
I assume they would have been quite supportive. I've got a weird medical story. Me and Kelvin were out at a festival in Germany. It might have been one of the biggest festivals we've done so far, and it was like maybe 25,000 people or something, or maybe a little bit more. But I remember it was a big old deal. Not like the festival itself, but to everyone that was on stage and working with Kelvin, we were like, this is a big one, nice. It was me and Charlie Boz on backline. We had Aaron Sayers on front of house, and then the band were all there. We'd set up and everything was kind of fine, and like everything was fine. It was a really hot summer's day, but yeah, everything was cool. We'd driven out anyway. I normally feel really horrible after a flight. So yeah, everything was cool. We'd done the sound check, everything was, and me and Boz, like I always bring this like Nerf howler with me. It's like a rocket thing that you throw to each other and it whistles. So me and Boz are yeeting this at each other. Like we're literally pounding at each other, like fucking knocking people out. We got it on top of one of the Arctics at one point. I climbed up on there, like grabbed it down. Like it was so funny. And then all of a sudden I threw it and I just had this really weird ache in my like groin area, like kind of like belly button down to like my full groin penis area. I was like, something feels very weird right now. And I was like, it's fine. They kind of gave it like half an hour and I was like, nah, something feels really wrong. And I know that's like quite serious. I need to go and figure that shit out. So I'm like, right. And Kelvin's girlfriend was there and she's German. So I was like, can you help me try and articulate to the medical staff what's going on? So she does. And the guy's like, yeah, great, come with me. And he's like speaking a little bit broken English, but it's kind of a case like basically I need to inspect your testicles and your penis and all that shit. And I'm like, okay, cool. No doubt. We're on in like an hour, or we're on like an hour and a half. Right. Luckily I wasn't doing sound, but I was doing backline and doing changeovers. So I'm like, okay, cool. And no shit, this guy was inspecting me like I was like I was concrete or something. I was like getting pulled and pushed and I was like, oh. And that made me feel worse. And then all my reactions were different. Mate, within 10 minutes, I'm sat in the back of an ambulance and Kelvin is like pissing himself because he's trying to explain. He's like, he doesn't need an ambulance. He might just need to go for an ultrasound or something, but he doesn't need an ambulance. So I'm sat in this ambulance, sweating my nuts off because it's the peak of summer. And then all of a sudden I'm just whisked off. And then all of a sudden I'm in German A&E in this random, very rural place in Germany, like northwest Germany. So I'm like shitting myself. No one speaks any English. I'm like just turned up. I'm like put on a bed. I'm just laying there, and I like my phone. This is before when like I'm with Free, and Free, like obviously like you can just roam anywhere now, or maybe not.
Sure. Yeah.
So I had no data or anything. So I'm just like, oh God. Aaron, the TM's like, right, well, just if you can make it back, great. If not, like Boz can just do your changeovers or whatever. So I'm like, oh fuck, sorry, Boz. And but yeah, I'm shitting myself laying on this bed, and this guy comes in and he just starts speaking to me in German. I'm like, sprechen Sie English, like trying to be like, I'm English. And he just starts pulling and prodding again, and like fucking, it feels like my testicles are going to come flying off or something. And so I'm in like a world of pain. I'm like really, really in pain now, and I'm like fucking in agony. And then all of a sudden, this guy like comes in, pulls me. I basically accidentally punched him in the face. So like he's like pulling me, so I just kind of like clocked him by accident because I was trying to just get him off me because I was like freaking out because I thought I was on like hostel or something.
Oh my God.
And then like 20 minutes goes by, and then they just wheel me out, put me into this guy's room, and this guy's like, I speak English. So I was like, oh okay. And then we go through everything, and basically he does an ultrasound. He finds I've got a kidney stone.
Oh wow!
So I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, so that's why you might be feeling all this pain. And I tries to explain kidney stones. It's a really small one, but he's like, it's better for you to go back to the UK, do it NHS, and do it all free. Because he's like, so far you've probably got like a €700 bill. And I was like, oh wow, what? Oh, okay. And he's like, but you've got a European insurance card, right? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I think I've got one of those. So get this ultrasound, gives me some serious pain medication, and then I'm discharged, and they give me this hospital bill, and it's like €800 or something, and I was like, oh okay, and they're trying to explain to me like, look, if you get this car and you do this and you do that, it's all paid for, it's all good. I'm like, oh okay, but then I'm like, oh, can you call me a taxi? And they're like, yeah, have you got cash? I'm like, no, I've only got like a card. So then that's we don't do that, and there's no ATMs nearby or something. So I can see the festival, and the festival's probably like 2 miles away, and I've got like, I think I had like half an hour, 45 minutes until showtime. So I'm just fucking pegging it like to the festival, literally in agony as well. And I'm like with this fucking £800 euro fucking hospital bill in my hand, just going, how the fuck? Because I didn't have the insurance card on me. And apparently if I had the insurance card on me, I remember later on when I did finally pay it, they were like, if you had the insurance card on you, then you could have, it would have just gone automatic to the UK and sorted itself out. Anyway, Kelvin's song that you used to open with is Closer, and I can't remember how the intro goes, but all of a sudden it's like the chorus is like closer, whoa, whoa, and I remember just bolting on stage as the chorus hit, and I was just like, and then I just stood there and didn't really do much, just kind of made sure everything was okay. But it felt like a rush in its time type of thing. I didn't actually have a very large role, but but it was fucking mental.
So did you finish? Did you go home the next day or anything, or what did you do?
No, we just drove back the next day.
Yeah, right.
No, drove back or the next day or the day after. I think it took us 2 days to drive back, maybe.
And it was all right.
And then I just went back to A&E, and then they were like, and then and then I've still got the kidney stone actually. So,
all right.
Yeah, cool. Oh mate, okay, we're gonna have to, I say this every time, but I'm gonna have to do it again because there's loads of stuff that like. Hope the fact of the matter is that we've both gone and done a temporary job for the time being until touring comes back, and it's been a little bit longer than we probably hoped for, but it's been great. So there's some definite hilarious stories to do with home delivery shopping, because it's a job that I've mad respect for people
definitely
that could do it full time, because I literally can't do it. I mean, yourself included, because I can't. It's just so physically demanding. I can't do it. So yeah, we definitely need to hook up about that at some point. Because
no, absolutely, yeah, you're right though. There's people that work there that have worked there for years and things, and definitely, I mean, it's a physical job, and like they're comfortable doing it, they like doing it and stuff, and it's great. And it can be, especially now. It has been it's been quite rewarding, because some people do rely on it. But they like, because they're so vulnerable, they can't leave the house at all. If it wasn't for home deliveries like that, they wouldn't be able to really get the shopping as reliable as they can. So no, it's like That's
one thing that I love.
Great, but...
I do love the regularity of the customers. If you get like a run, like the morning Saturday, the first wave I do on a Saturday, if I get some of the people that I'm used to, it's great. Yeah, just like little things like asking like, oh, how did that thing go? Or how did this thing go? And it's like, that's quite nice. And you realise that actually, between whoever they're shielding with, you're the only people they speak to and see.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I also just quite like, I get excited now because I sometimes get to know what houses have got cool dogs and stuff. So I get excited to see the dog.
yeah. Someone's got a cool mate. The other day, actually, I did somewhere that I'd been before. And I remember they've got a really, really nice like black Labrador. And I remember being like, oh my God. And I called the dog by a different dog's name. And she was like, that's not my dog's name. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Oh no. Lost all respect from them.
Yeah, just like, get away from me, you blue head penis.
Never stroke my dog again.
But yeah, okay, well, before we wrap up, I always like to finish with a sharing is caring. It's just something that I like to, hopefully people who are listening and watching have something to go on and do, even, after the episode is finished, just something to pass on to other people. I have ripped it from Halfcast, but I feel like it's such a good idea that I think Halfcast is another podcast I listen to. It's really, really, really good. You should watch it. You should listen to it.
Nice. Yeah.
And it's a thing that I've ripped, but it's also just because I think it's such a great idea. Like, it's just something that you should spread the word about something. So I think I'll go first. I think at the moment, I think I must have said it before, but there's a show called RuPaul's Drag Race. Have you heard of it?
I have. I've not watched it. I'll be honest. I've got a friend who's obsessed with it and he keeps trying to get me to watch it, but
it's
we've not watched it yet.
I never would have found myself fully involved in a series, but like this time last year there was one that Anna got me into, and I was like, yeah, and it kind of just became like a weekly thing that I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then now they've just done like a UK one, so before it was all US stuff, so it's harder to kind of like relate to because it's US and it's really, really over dramatized. But at the moment there's a UK one, and they do a similar format every year. So they always do that one episode where they do like a kind of game show, and they do one episode that's like a musical. But they did one where they did like a pop star band kind of thing, where like 4 of them get together and they write their own verses to this song that's been made for them. And mate, it got like number 2 in the charts.
Oh,
it just somehow, like became like a bit of a viral thing. And it's just, I remember watching the episode and then waking up the next morning and just being like, dun, dun, dun,
you're right.
dun, 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 and just like not being able to get it out of my head.
That's
and now like,
great.
every Thursday I'm like, RuPaul's Drag Race, let's go.
I'm gonna have to watch it. Yeah,
mate, it's actually it's legit. It's legit. For an hour I just like have no worries. It's so good. But yeah,
that's great. A friend of mine who watches that, just wouldn't enjoy something like that at all, but he loves it. He's obsessed with it. So he's actually making a guitar pedal based on RuPaul. I can't remember what he said he was going to call it. Oh, that's really bad. He said he was going to call it something to do, but it's glittery and it's got RuPaul stickers on it.
Oh my God, that's sick. I need to find. Yeah. Okay, I need to look up this. You have to tell me about him.
Yeah, I was trying to. Yeah, I've got a few things. I guess being obviously lockdown and stuff as well. It's a lot of it's either TV shows or social media things and stuff like that. But I follow a page called Humans of New York on Instagram.
Oh yeah.
Which I really like. I think a few people have got on it. It's really popular. I've been trying to on social media and things. I've been trying to follow a few more pages like that. That's not just either, I don't know, memes or dog stuff, or which is great. But I also, you can get to a bit of a hole with that sort of thing. So
yeah, doom scrolling.
Yeah. So it's called Humans of New York, and it's I can't remember the guys who does it actually, but he goes around. It's just pictures of random people from the street of New York and tells you their story and things, and he writes it really well. And it's just really interesting to read into some random people that you've never met, seen, or heard of before, what their story is. And it's quite brief, but it's a good kind of in-depth little story about them, and that's really interesting. Really enjoyed reading through that. I'd recommend that definitely.
So I'm like massively into street photography. So I remember, all that stuff is like, there's like a book I think as well.
That's it.
It's I love that stuff in New York as well. It's such like the whole thing about New York is everyone has their own story. I mean, obviously everyone has their own story, but a New Yorker has a proper story to tell you. So
and they're so diverse as well. That the people that may live streets apart just got such drastically different lives, even to the from where they live and stuff. You think that there'd be some similarities, but it's really interesting, which is really good. So I have enjoyed that. And I also started watching that Song Exploder on Netflix as well, which was great. Where they kind of
what's that? Sorry?
Songs, and it's called Song Exploder.
Oh, okay.
So Netflix, it's a little bit like a podcast, but it's sort of on Netflix, a little docu-series. They'll pick a song, an artist, and they'll interview them and talk to them about sort of certain songs and how they wrote it and what the thought was behind it all, and the recording process and things. I think they're about maybe 25 minutes, 20 minutes long. They're really good. I really enjoyed them.
Oh, okay. Sweet. Let's check it out, actually.
Yeah, they're great. R.E.M. did one, Dua Lipa did one, 9 Inch Nails, I think they're doing one of some of their songs. And
is it a bit like Tiny Desk or not? Sorry.
No, because they don't do a live performance or anything.
Right,
no,
okay.
it's they'll kind of play the song and they'll talk through it about certain parts of the song and they'll talk how they wrote, I don't know, the lyrics or the chorus or something like that, and where they
that's cool.
Coders did one as well. And it's really funny that the R.E.M. track they did, they would isolate parts of the track and sort of play it back to them, and you hear different parts of the song that even they were like, oh yeah, I forgot that was in there, and they'd be like, how did you do that? Or what's that? It's like small things, like there'll be certain claps in a little bit, and they'd be like, oh yeah, I forgot we
put that in there.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's really good.
That is interesting. Okay, mate, Jack, thank you so much for joining me. If people wanna, bombard you with emails, if people want to follow your journey, where would you ask them to go and follow you?
I guess my Instagram page. I don't post a lot at all, really. I do a bit of work and things like that I post, but my Instagram is just what is it? I think it's just Jack Bonney 90 or Jack Bonney maybe. So yeah, there's stuff on there, but I'm more of a stalk on Instagram and stuff like that. Not stalk, that's the wrong word. I look through dog videos and stupid stuff.
If you're followers of dog and Humans in New York memes, then
come to me.
Jack Bonney, wicked. Okay, thank you everyone for listening or watching. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff that everyone's telling you to do. I'm telling you to do it as well because whatever, I don't care. Yeah, thank you for all listening and see you all soon.
Long drives, late nights, and lobby calls. This podcast has